Welcome everyone to Bardscast, talking to interesting people about interesting things. If it's interesting to me, that's good enough. And joining me now, we have someone who is one of the most interesting people I have ever had the privilege of speaking to. You remember him from his stint in the UFC and the finalist of The Ultimate Fighter 2 back when that show mattered. The one, the only, Luke Cummo. Luke, it's great to talk to you again.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Carlin. Good to
Yeah,
talk to you.
it's been a while, and you're looking good. Looks like things are going well for you down in New York there.
So I wouldn't say I train as hard as a fighter because they actually overtrain. The theory is it's better to overtrain than undertrain, but I'm very close to it. I train people for a living, and then most of the time I train with them. So I'm in the gym every day, literally every day. Not even I don't even take Sundays off because some people have that type of schedule. They can only train Sunday.
Right.
And so I'm in good shape. I'm not as quick as I used to be, but I'm stronger and I'm more wily. So I probably could get back in there. It's just with the risk of injury, it's not worth it anymore. But I have a solution. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Absolutely, we'll talk about that. Has a comeback ever crossed your mind, or is the risk of injury, like you say, just too much that it's just too preventative for you?
Well, let's see. In 2009 was my last fight, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I did have mild traumatic brain injury. Now, I never got knocked out. I was lucky in that regard, but I started to show symptoms, and I did self-diagnose myself with the MTBI, but I have since gone to get the scan of the brain. I have the disc for the proof. But I haven't got the scans read out yet because you need a special type of program to do that. You can't just like put it in your computer and look at it. But I came up with this new regulatory body for MMA, and I've been at it since about 2012, promoting events and building the brand. And I'm just about, I could feel it. I'm just about to have the sprout. Like they say, the bamboo tree takes 10 years to actually grow. I'm just at that point. And there were times when I was feeling like, oh, I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I was like, oh, what if I go back to fighting and get some money and then put that into the championship. So I did contact the UFC, and I said I want to fight again. Can you get me in there? And he said I had the email from a guy named Joe Silva.
Right.
He was the matchmaker back he was the only matchmaker back then.
Yeah.
This is 10 years ago. So he said, well, what weight did you want to fight at? I said, well, I was a bit undersized at 170. I didn't have to cut. I walked at 170 and fought at 170. Let me go to 155. And he said, okay, so that's Sean Shelby. He's the matchmaker for 155 now.
Yeah.
So I messaged Sean Shelby. I got his contact info. And Sean Shelby basically told me that he has 100 people on the roster already at 155 and a list a mile long of people waiting to get in. And that for me to get back in the UFC, I would have to work my way back up through the leagues, the lower leagues. Like when I started in New York here, we had the Ring of Combat.
Yeah.
And that's like a feeder organization that Weidman came out of, and Ali Aquinta and all the local guys came up through the Ring of Combat. So, I was hoping to just get, maybe when I left the UFC, I was making 20 grand just to show up. But for these local shows, most of the time you have to sell tickets, and you're getting like $5 a ticket or something, $10 a ticket. So, and then I thought about it because another quick story. When I was fresh off the show, I got the 6-figure contract. Even though Joe Daddy Stevenson beat me in the decision, they gave me the same contract as if I won, which was a 6-figure contract, And with that came opportunities like a Zions sponsorship. And Zions was doing a signing at the mall here, and they invited me down. Matt Hughes was there and Rich Franklin, and they were sponsored by Zions, and they offered me to be sponsored by Zions. They were going to pay me, I believe it was $38,000 a year to promote their stuff, use their stuff, wear their clothes, go to like a monthly signing or something like that. And I actually did turn it down because a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm a Taurus, I'm stubborn. But deeper than that, I didn't want to represent something that I know wasn't healthy. So I thought about all my fans that at that time I had a lot of fans. Young kids, maybe people who saw me as the underdog and they're fresh into MMA. Maybe I've had people say I was the reason why they started MMA training because they saw somebody who didn't look like a fighter and they saw that they could do it. So I couldn't, in good conscience, promote something that I know was so harmful. Now, going back to the fighting, now I have this alternative to, and not alternative, I would call it an upgrade to the MMA regulatory body. Okay, when UFC first came out, there was no gloves, there was headbutts, you had people doing groin strikes. It was kind of like a free for all, or like the Wild West. Then the boxing commission became involved, and I think I gave it away to somebody as a memorabilia, but I have a card, I believe it was from 2008. It says National MMA ID card. And the watermark, you know what a watermark is, right?
Yeah, sure.
The watermark says USA Boxing. So I'm like, why the hell does USA Boxing have the watermark on the National MMA ID card? And then I thought about it. I said, oh, well, because boxing was an established combat sport already in America, that's how they got in, to be a regulated sport. And that's why they wore gloves, because to get in with the boxers, they had to put gloves on. But now if you think about it, they wear gloves, but then they use elbows. They use knees and kicks. So the gloves is not to protect the fighter. The gloves
Right.
is not even to protect the person's hands. And it's not to protect against cuts, because cuts still happen often.
Mhm.
And they don't care about fighter safety because of all the other things that I mentioned. So it's not about safety. It's not about cuts and not making it a blood sport. It's because they had to get in with the boxers. Now, they don't want it to be considered a blood sport, so they added these regulations. All I'm doing is continuing that line. Okay, I'm using a scientific method, a logical method to add more regulations to make it more of a sport.
Right.
So, and it happened out of necessity, Carlin, because after I retired, I became a sparring partner. And even then, I was getting headaches for days and days. And one sparring session, 3-day, 4-day long headache. And then my friend, I think it's the person who I gave that National MMA ID card. He's got a bunch of my memorabilia up in Canada.
All right. Another Canadian.
Yeah, he wants the good people up there.
Yeah, we try.
He wants to do like a, when he believes in the League of Champions. When it gets big, he wants to have like a, memorabilia museum or whatever. But he told me, he's the one who told me, shout out to Wally. Wally told me that the damage is happening inside the skull as far as brain damage. And so that's why the USA Boxing, the Olympic team, they're not using headgear anymore because it doesn't matter. You're still going to get the trauma inside where the brain actually hits the inside of the skull from the force. And that's how people can get brain trauma from car accidents and wrestling. Wrestling is actually a high concussion sport and other sports like that. So I said, well, here I have a literal gold mine. I have a mission now. And for the same reason I turned down Zions is really the same reason that I decided not to go back into fighting. And people have been offering me. a bunch of shows. I get messages all the time. People are like, "Oh, what's your record?" Blah blah blah. Like looking for fighters because it's still the Wild West.
Yeah.
People, they want to get in the game. They want to make money. And nobody cares about the true spirit of martial arts, which is protection. The word samurai means protector. The word samurai means attender. The warrior class, we're supposed to protect the village, not lead them into battle, which is what's happening right now because of basically the promoters. But I'm promoting now, and I have another event coming up end of November. And I believe in it. And once this event gets big, you are going to see a comeback, because this venue that I have now seats 100 people. And this event coming up on November 30th is the first time at this venue that the owner is going to co-promote. So I sold 50 tickets last time. He had his own event following because he saw what I was doing there. He's like, "Oh, now I can make some money here." He sold 50 tickets without me. So with us two co-promoting, and then also what I did was I joined another local gym for my own training so I could train with people who were not my students.
Oh.
And I joined there. So I'm there twice a week, and I'm going to get at least one of their students to participate in my event. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to sell out the venue on this next event. I want to do that 2 times in a row, maybe 3 times in a row, before the year ends, or beginning of next year. And then I have a venue that seats 500 in further out on Long Island here. When I get to that venue is when I'm going to have my division within the league. So there's a bunch of ex-fighters on Long Island. You have guys like Ryan LaFleur. He had to retire due to traumatic brain injury. I mean, he didn't say that, but he was getting knocked out. And there's other guys that used to fight. There's people that are black belts that don't fight. And I'm going to challenge them all. I'm going to use Conor McGregor's method of trash talking to promote my league by calling out all these old fighters. I'm going to say, "Listen, you're a martial artist," and I'll play it up a little more. You're a martial artist. You're supposed to protect people. Don't teach them to get injured in a cage. I challenge you. And definitely going to call out Ryan LaFleur because he was in my weight class. But what I want to do is sell that place out, 500 seating capacity, by challenging all these big names on Long Island, and then move west now into New York City, and then launch like a nationwide and worldwide tour. So that's the ultimate goal.
Well, it seems like you've got the germ of an idea here, something that's going to grow very organically. It was the League of Assassins. Now it's the League of Champions. Why the name change?
So I believe the last time, because when you messaged me, you said the word epic a couple of times. I think I was actually working at a school called Epic Martial Arts, which is a karate school. And I basically got hooked up because of a friend of a friend. And I actually was sleeping at the gym in the back room. It wasn't the last time. I moved on to a couple other gyms where I was sleeping in the gym. Like I said before, there was some dark days, Carl. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. But martial arts saved me in several ways. But hold on, I lost my train of thought.
League of Assassins, now the League of Champions.
Yeah. So the woman I was dating, she owned. Now, she might not want me to tell you, but she owned Epic Martial Arts East. There's a west one, which is in the middle of Long Island. There's an east, which is on the east side end of Long Island, near the Hamptons. And I was going there on the weekends to see her and to guest teach her students. And at that point, it was the League of Assassins. We had head contact. My friend Wally from Canada told me about that the headgear doesn't matter. So I took head contact out, and she told me, because I was working with her kids, she said the parents don't want their kids to be involved with the League of Assassins. So then it came up with the League of Champions, and it fits because of the scoring system, which is a continual scoring system. Now, right now, because it's in the germ stages, like you said, I have scorekeepers or judges. So they're going to give each fighter a score from 0 to 100 at the end of every match. But in the future, when we get to California, Silicon Valley, and when my tour gets to California, I'm going to hook up with the technology of motion capture. And what that's going to do is allow cameras to digitize our movement. So no matter what we do, there's a score on a scoreboard that's going up. And at the end of every match, everybody gets their points. And what's going to happen on November 30th, which happened at the last event, is that we have a 5-man round robin tournament. So everybody faces each other once. At the end of the tournament, each person, because there's 5 guys, each person has 4 matches, and then they have 4 scores of 0 to 100. So that's their personal score. There are 4 scores put together. Then we have the total tournament score, which is everybody's score put together. So we have a fraction here, which is the personal score divided by the tournament score. That fraction gets multiplied by the prize pot, which in this case is going to be $1,000 because it's still a small event. Tickets are $20. It's 100 tickets. That's $2,000 divided by 2 because the house is going to take half. So that's $1,000 for the prize pot. So everybody gets paid. I say everybody's a champion. And I think it's a good way to approach martial arts because it happens even in grappling, where what I've seen is kids matches being stopped because they don't want the kid to get injured, which is a good idea. But the kid will get an armbar and the referee will stop the match. The kid's not injured, but he starts crying because he feels disappointed that he didn't win. Now, in the League of Champions, if there's a tap out, it's not against the rules, but if there's a tap out, it's a restart. So every match is 5 minutes. There's no loser. If you dedicate yourself day in, day out, you train, you want to become better, that is the mindset of a champion, and you should be considered as such. I don't think that it's in the true spirit of martial arts what they're doing now, which is one person wins, one person doesn't win. And it's actually not scientific. And it's a little bit out there, but if you think about the DNA and you think about this is actually a physics theory where you have 2 energies that are spiraling and they're actually going somewhere. Right now you have in MMA, it's like colliding energies, and then you only end up with this much. You end up with one winner. In the League of Champions, you have a combination energy, which it just makes sense to me. It's going to be more successful because people are going to be more into it. And just theoretically, the energy is more productive.
Well, it's an interesting thought. I mean, in jiu-jitsu, they tell you all the time, there's no losers. You either win or you learn. So it seems like it's something akin to what you're saying as well. You mentioned the scoring system based on a possible of 100. What are the points based on?
So right now it's I don't have it in front of me, but I have a whiteboard scorecard, right? So there's 2 sides. Now the way I do it is I take 2 markers, and as I'm watching the match, I'm making just shapes or lines. And at the end of the match, I'm just going to zone out and look at the scorecard, and I'm going to say I'm going to look at how filled up the space is. Now there's 5 lines for 5 minutes, so if the person really wanted to be strict, they could go by the line, and it's really an art form, the fighting and the scorekeeping. So I leave it up to the judges. I have people that I trust, black belts and people who participate in MMA, people who have no interest in the actual fighter, like they're not going to play favorites. And they judge the match as a whole. So you could do it by minutes, you could do it by moves. And it's still the same problem that people have with judging now, which is it's subjective. Now there's certain things that is you see it happening, that person won the match, or they got a higher score, I should say. So I have 8 scorecards right now. So there's less of a chance of somebody getting blown out because there's so many judges. Just the law of averages kind of brings
Right.
it to
Yeah.
be a reasonable score.
Yeah. And so there's no
But
head
when we get
contact
to
at all in here, right?
when we get into the actual technology of the motion capture, what we're going to do is we're going to have a score from 0 to 100 million for each move. So as soon as the match begins, you have a base level. Let's just say maybe it's 100. Okay, now you're automatically fighting, so you automatically get points for that. And now that's every second, you're getting 100 points per second. Now you start to do something. Every move could be up to 100 million points. So if you do a good punch, now in a regular fight, a punch could end the match. So a punch could be 100 million points. You get a rear naked choke, that could end the match. That could be 100 million points. So any move, even a takedown, you can knock somebody out on a takedown. You can finish somebody on a takedown. Every move could be up to 100 million points. Now, I call it two things. There's the 4XP, the 4X points, 4XP. That's the actual points. And then you have the system, which I call power hold. So that's to be distinguished from submission, because the purpose is not to make the person tap out. If you get me in a rear naked choke, Carlin, and you make me tap out, you're going to get points for the hold. But if you don't make me tap out and you hold that position where I'm fighting, but I'm not tapping out, you're going to get points per second for that move. So it goes up to potentially 100 million points. If it's a really good move, you could get up to 100 million points, and then it can stay there. So now you're getting 100 million points per second. So that's the theory. That's the concept for the digital scoring. And they could do anything with technology these days. I don't think it would be hard for them to come up with an algorithm or something. We would just have to maybe map out the different positions to a number.
Yeah, it sounds pretty technologically intensive. Like, would they have to be sparring wearing motion capture suits like they do in video games or something, or how would that work?
I think the cameras are capable.
Cameras are capable? Okay.
Yeah, I
Because,
believe so.
all right, I can barely work my computer, so you're talking to things that are way above my pay grade right now.
Yeah, my website looks like a 3-year-old put it together, but I feel like if I put what I can do, if I could put my energy, my creative juices into it and just work really hard, people are going to want to come on board. Like you're in media, so you're helping me, you're on board with the league. Down the line, some kid who's good at Photoshop, in my last event, I had a team of videographers come. They filmed the event. So I'm just working really hard and continuing. And I know that, people are just going to jump on and they can do anything with technology. I'm not worried about that.
Well, your passion is going to be what sells it, my friend. Just want to say one more time. So there is no head contact in the League of Champions,
Right.
and that's very
So
important to you.
it's called outside the collar line.
Okay.
So we wear what in Korea they call it a hogu. It's basically a chest protector. Okay. And it comes up to here. And so we're not going to be striking the head or neck or the spine, but everything else is legal. And if you go on my website, masterluki.com, on the regulation page, it has a picture of a list of the equipment. So everything's padded from head to toe. We even wear a headgear just in case, because sometimes, you can block a punch and it can bounce off. And safety first, safety is the most important thing. Now, the other rule is no finishing. So like I said, if somebody has to tap out, it's not against the rules. You do a restart. Finishing also refers to striking, because you don't want to kick somebody's knee out where they can't spar anymore. So there's no head contact and there's no finishing. And those are the two major rules.
Okay. And I want to circle back to the whole CTE thing. You had said you diagnosed yourself with a mild TBI, traumatic brain injury. Yeah, you had the scans done, but you haven't been able to read them. Is that something that you would have to take to a specialist, or what's the process there?
Yeah. What happened was I'm self-employed. I'm also into natural healing, so I don't see doctors. I never get sick. I train in a way that I'm sore at most. I don't get injured. I mean, knock on wood. Um, it's still a contact sport, so. But anyway, I went to the local office. In America, we do have somewhat of a free health care. Certain things aren't covered, certain things are. I got my card for Medicaid or whatever, and I went to a specialist to get the brain scans. But then something happened with the insurance where they wouldn't take me back because they didn't get paid. So I'm sitting on the disc, and I at some point I probably will get it read out because some people think I'm bullshitting or whatever, maybe just for my own reference. But yeah, so I have the scans. It's on a disc somewhere. I just looked up online the symptoms that I was having, and I wouldn't say I was ever normal, but I wasn't irritable. Uh, I had mild depression as a teenager, but it got worse after I retired from fighting, and I also got anxiety, which I never had. Other than that, there was some memory loss, periods of time where it was kind of like cloudy. Sometimes I'll get stuck on a word, not stuttering, but it just takes a while to come out. And luckily, I was able to connect with my teacher in natural medicine, who put me on a program, and now I I can do that program for people who do have brain injury and they can heal.
What's involved in natural healing of brain injury? Because I'm just thinking of guys like Gary Goodridge. I haven't talked to him for a few years, but when I did, he was quite frankly a mess. I mean, he had to carry around an iPhone just to remind him what he did or said 5 minutes ago. So,
Yeah,
what is the natural alternative? Because there's not a whole lot out there to heal TBI, unfortunately.
right. Well, it has to do with what's called living fats. So the brain's made out of fat. Uh, the nerves are made out of fat. So what happens is when people eat cooked fats, now that doesn't even have to be from animals, it could be from plants. Anytime there's a cooked fat, the structure of it is what's called denatured. Basically, our brain is a living fat, and we have to eat living fats to rebuild the brain tissue. But if we eat cooked fats, that causes us to use our own vitality to kind of bring that fat back into the state where it could be used to rebuild the brain tissue. So I went on a very strict program that's called Life Food Certified, and the four major fats that I eat is pumpkin seed, chia, olive oil, coconut oil, and that's five things. And then sometimes I'll splurge on some chocolate.
Okay.
And it was a few years. Honestly, I only would say I fully recovered probably 2 years ago, because the brain is not like, and that's why we're seeing such damage over time, because the brain is not as vasculated as, for example, the muscle. Now you can get a bone bruise. People who do training, you can get a bruise on your shin or your elbow or something. That'll take months to heal. And even the bone gets more blood flow than the fat. So brain, I didn't fully recover for, I would say, probably close to 10 years. 5 to 10 years it took me. But the real word of healing in the natural healing terminology, the word healing is referring to a change where if I just say, oh, I'm going to eat healthy fats and then I'm going to be healed, but I'm still doing MMA with head contact, that wouldn't be true healing. The real healing has to do with the change of the behavior that caused the condition. So I had to stop doing the head trauma, and then I had to go in and, rebuild that brain tissue. But I, in the beginning stages, because Carlin, I'm the only one doing this right now. I had nobody to turn to and say, what should I do? So I just kind of like cried out into the wilderness on YouTube, and people thought I was crazy, which I can see that. I can see the reason why, because first of all, I was recovering from the injury. So my behavior wasn't as, I wasn't calm like I am now. I didn't have a plan of action, and people don't want to. Nobody wants somebody who's just complaining and not offering a solution. If you have a problem with something, you have to come up with a solution. Otherwise, complaining does nothing. And I had to learn that the hard way, because a lot of people left me in the dust. And that's okay, because it made me to get stronger within myself, where because I'm the only one doing it, I had to come up with this myself. And I had to do it because I was getting the headaches, and I started martial arts training when I was in my teens. When people were going to college, I was doing martial arts training. I don't have any other training. I have training in art, so I design all my own logos and stuff, but I can't go into the workforce. I would have to start, at square one. And so I just stayed on the grind, and luckily martial arts teaches, how to dig deep and work hard, and I think it's going to pay off.
So going back to that period of time where you maybe weren't yourself, the depression, the anxiety, was it attributed to the TBI, you think, or was it also in part of losing the spot with the UFC, a combination of things? Well, what, from your perspective, obviously looking back at it now as a much more together person, what can you say kind of sent you into that tailspin?
Everything is multiple caused, it's never just one thing. So you had the physical injury, the stress of having a family and not being able to provide, the resulting fallout with my family. It was all just like a perfect storm, where I just found myself sitting in a room with nothing except my phone. And I went on YouTube, and I made the mistake of thinking that I could fight the system. So I made a video. I said, listen, this is order to show cause. It's a legal term, meaning if you can't provide a reason why I can't do such and such, then by default, we have to conclude that I'm right. If I say I'm safe, I need to see my kids, I'm giving you 2 weeks. If you don't get back to me, I'm just going to assume that it's all good and I'll come. The judge in my family court case saw that. They said, that's a violation. You need to come in. The sheriff's department called me. They said, listen, you violated an order. You got to come in and see the judge. And I was like, I'm getting locked up for a YouTube video? There's no way. I didn't do anything. So this is me being a 30-year-old, but in the legal system, very young. I had no idea. So it was almost like a kid. I'll be 40 next year, but there's certain things which I'm still very young at. And the legal system is one of them. And, people spend a long time to study that stuff. But I ended up, in jail. It scared me straight. I saw that I was using the wrong approach. And so I started over in my parents' basement. I moved out to the gym because, my parents are my parents. They want certain things for me. They're not in charge of my life, although they created me and they saved me. Uh, if it was up to them, I wouldn't be Master Lukey. I would be maybe a police officer or something. So I had to move out of my parents' house into the gym. Now I have an apartment. It's not much, but it's getting me to where I need to be.
Mhm.
So, long story short, it was a combination of the physical injury, the stress of the situation, and honestly, the system. eh, if you look at Ultimate Fighting, for example, you lose a fight, you lose a couple of fights, you're gone, forgotten. The system in the world is it's like a machine, and the gears can grind you up, and you just end up a statistic. But I'm a fighter, and if anybody who's watching, Carlin, they need help with anything, I'm not expert on anything, but I will definitely spend time to research and help. If I can't help you, whoever's watching, I can send you in the right direction. I'm going to be 40. I do have a bit of experience, and I know that if you want to do something, you can make it happen. If you want to heal, if you want to change your life for the better, you could do that. I'm not the only one saying that.
Well, that's a very positive way to look at things, and I commend you on how far you've come. Uh, how long were you in jail for?
8 days.
8 days, okay. And was that as a result of again, I'm trying to figure my way through this
Yeah.
for a violation of a custody order, or
Yeah, it was
okay,
let's see. So what happened was, now have you heard of grain brain?
I have not.
So basically the theory is that a human being is millions of years old. Our DNA, they're finding more and more evidence that millions of years ago there was an advanced civilization of human beings. Now, only a couple of 100,000 years ago, at most, did we start to farm uh, and eat grains.
Hmm.
And this is the research that people use for what's called Paleo Diet and things
Right.
like that. Okay, you probably heard of that.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is basically our system has evolved over millions and billions of years to thrive on a certain menu ingredients list, and then the grains, although it's close, the difference between what we're supposed to eat and the grain is enough that you can have symptoms. And Grain Brain was a book written about those symptoms. And when I when I had my medicine training for my brain injury, I went to California. It took me 3.5 months to get uh, enough training where I would be able to carry on at home, because the person that I trained under, Dr. David Jubb, I met him in New York. He moved to California to work with um, specialists in the area of uh, let's see, brain chemistry. So they're making formulas out there that are like super formulas for this type of thing. But so I had to go out to California to meet with him. I was out there for 3 months. My parents and my ex-wife picked up the slack as far as taking care of the kids. They were babies then, so it wasn't too bad. But when I came back, the first day that I came back, Carlin, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and the wheat caused me to kind of like uh, get hot-headed.
Hmm.
And that was the day when I yelled at my ex-wife, and I yelled at her enough, never physical. I never was ever physical with anybody outside of a professional cage setting. Let me just clarify that. I did yell at her, and I yelled at her in front of the kids about what she was feeding them because she wasn't as strict as me. And I saw the kids were getting sick, and that's another story. But I yelled at her in front of the kids. She went to the courthouse, got an order of protection against me, and because I had no idea what to do as far as my legal rights, I just started ranting on YouTube and stuff like that. And one of those rants, the judge saw as a violation of that order,
Okay.
which is actually a Class B felony. So that has some serious jail time. Although it was just a YouTube video, I did end up in jail. My dad said, I begged my dad because to me that's the worst as a human being, but also as an artist. I need freedom, and being in jail and just thinking about my kids not having their dad, it still tears me up. But that was the worst period of my life, those 8 days, Carlin. I begged my dad, please get me out of here. He said, okay, I'll bail you out, but you have to come live with me. You're going to be under lock and key. You're going to have a curfew. You can't go anywhere unless I tell you so. So I moved home for about 6 months, and I got myself back into the swing of things. I moved into a gym, and I started promoting these events. My last event, which was in April, was the first event that the fighters got paid with this prize pot concept. And the owner of the venue that I'm at, he saw the potential, and now he's investing his own time and energy to build up the next one. So I think of it like this: if you go on Google and you type in my name, there's going to be good things. There's going to be things that I put up. There's going to be bad things. I'm just going to keep going and piling on the good things so that all the other stuff gets pushed down. And that's pretty much, I believe that's all I could do. I can't go back in the past and change things. Feeling bad about what I did, thinking about the people that I let down, it's not going to fix it. What is going to fix it is keep plowing forward, keep fighting, and become a success.
Have you attempted to make amends with anyone during that time that maybe you weren't as weren't as effective above the shoulders as you are now? You seem to be anyway. Have you gone
Yeah,
back and tried to heal or
I
mend
will.
some of those relationships?
I will. When I'm in a better place, I will. Because if I go there now, I feel like it would be like I would be almost pathetic, because I don't have anything yet. I have something, but it's not something that I could show. People are gonna ask, oh, like my parents asked me, oh, how much money have you made? I haven't made any money yet, and I'm not concerned with that. I'm putting the time in now. I'm investing everything that I have into it. I know it's gonna pay off, but when I have an event where I can invite all the gyms from Long Island, then I'll go back to, for example, Matt Serra, Ray Longo, all my old teammates, and say, hey, I'm back. Come, let's get the team back together, type of thing. But if I
Right.
go there now, I think I don't have enough to to do like what I was saying, push down all the negativity. I think that will still be an issue where I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry for what I did, blah, blah, blah. I just want to just move past that. And when I have a certain degree of success, I am going to do that. I think about it a lot. And the
That's
same thing
good.
with the ex, with the ex-wife. What can I do for her? I can pay her. I can pay her what she wants, what she deserves, what my kids deserve. And I'm just thankful to be where I am as far as my kids. I get to see them once a week because because I have no money, I can't be in their life. I have to work basically every day. I get a few hours on Saturday to see them, and it's not enough, but it has to do for now. And then I just keep telling myself, and I tell them, I'm working really hard, and I'm going to get it back.
What is your relationship with your kids like now?
So they're 10 and 12, and they're getting to be that age, where most parents would say they're not gonna want to hang out with you. Kids become teenagers, and uh, the parents aren't cool anymore. I think it's because parents aren't cool to begin with. I just can only refer back to my parents, and I see other parents, they're too disciplinarian. I believe parents should be in a supportive role, not in a dictative role. So what can I do, so that my heart doesn't get broken? I want I, I want to get back with my kids. Like when I had UFC money, I was their primary care provider. They woke up, I was there. All day we spent together. I want to get back to that. So, but they're not going to want to be with me if I'm not a cool person. So, with Master Lukey brand, I have a major focus on what's going to be attracted to kids. So, I play Fortnite. I dress. I try to dress like a superhero.
It's very colorful for anyone who's ever seen the pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. If you type in hashtag Master Lukey, it should come up, or just my name, Luke Cummo. And I do dad jokes, so I'm a bit corny, but I work with kids, and I just try to be somebody that kids will want to be around. When I play Fortnite, sometimes I play with other kids, and they're like, "Oh, wow, you're a dad. That's so cool. I wish my dad played Fortnite." You know, so I believe that by being a cool person and not being a disciplinarian, but being a supportive parent, supporting them and steering them. Not like my dad, which he tells me, he told me you have to do this or else. I think that there's a lot of research now which teaches, which shows, a better way to be a parent. So they're always happy to see me, and I give them what I can, and I look at people like Dana White and Donald Trump. They have money, and their kids are very close to them. So I think unfortunately, whatever, that's the way of the world. Money is a big part of it. So not that that's my goal. I know it's going to be there, but that I think when I have the money to give them what they want, then I can bribe them, because one of the things that I think about is that if I'm not there, how am I going to know they're safe? So when my kids go to college, I want to be there. I want to be in their town. They're not going to want to be with me all the time, but I want to have a place wherever they're staying. I want to bring them into the family business. My younger son, I think he's going to be good as he would be good as a like a manager type of thing. So I can't make them do it, but I can make them an offer they can't refuse.
There you go, very Godfather-esque. So, with the kids, are they into martial arts as well? Is this something that they're pursuing?
Well, to be honest, if I didn't have to, if this wasn't my mission, I don't know that I would still be in fighting, because it's not easy, Carlin, to push yourself. You have to have a reason to go to the gym, to do extra reps. So when kids that I train, they usually get to the gym because of their parents. They may initially think that they want to do martial arts, but then when they take class and they see that it's not easy, what's going to keep them coming back? Okay, now some kids, they want to fight. And that's what motivated me when I was coming up, because I loved to spar when I first started. I loved the sparring, and then before I knew what fighting was actually like, I thought I wanted to fight. So I started to get into the fighting. That was a driving force for me to improve my skills and to stay on top of my nutrition and my lifestyle. And kids, my kids, they have come to the gym, but I don't think that they are into it like I'm into it. I'm into it. I'm all in. I'm in a place now. There's no plan B, Carlin.
Right.
So
I've got my little one taking lessons. I'm paying for them from halfway across the world because I know I'm not there to keep her safe. So if she knows how to take care of herself, that helps me sleep a little bit easier at night. And first you complain because it's well it's rough, but then she's really gotten into it. And I see pictures for her rolling around in the gym and stuff like that. And she she tells me, "Daddy, I get to beat people up and make new friends." And she's got the biggest beaming smile
okay.
on her face. I'm like, "All right, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're into it."
That is great. Maybe it's where you are, but I know in Japan that it's part of the school curriculum, martial arts training.
Right, yeah,
Of course, I'm
Taiwan.
biased, but
Yeah, Taiwan is there's not a lot. I mean, there's some kids that get put into Taekwondo a lot, but as far as especially professional MMA, there is nothing happening here whatsoever. It's the one place in Asia. I mean, Thailand's got a scene, obviously, with the Muay Thai. Japan's got a scene. Korea's got a scene. One championship, obviously, uh, operates out of Singapore, but Taiwan, we got nothing. So, but the way to keep my finger in the pie, so to speak, is to talk to good people like yourself.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So, what do you get out of the teaching kids, teaching the next generation how to be martial artists?
So, what I'm doing is I'm building this brand, Master Luki brand. I have a logo, which you can see. It's basically a ring, and it has 8 holes around the ring, and in the middle is a big hole. So this is the center of my championship belt. I said Master Luki's League of Champions. Everyone's a champion. You can go on the website. You can get your own championship ring. It's also a ranking system for MMA. So in each hole goes a magic crystal. In each crystal is the spirit of a mythical beast. So instead of, for example, a white belt, it'd be a bull Pegasus. It's a bull with wings made out of pure energy like a lightning bolt. That teaches fitness. The first rank in MMA, in my opinion, this is my system. The first rank is fitness based. So you get a white crystal, quartz crystal, or a diamond. It goes in the hole, and then out of the center comes the bull Pegasus. So I'm building this brand of mixed martial arts, and each mythical beast has a book. Like if you've ever played video games, they used to have these guides for the game. It
Right.
shows you where all the treasure chests are and whatnot, all the moves lists for the fighting games. So each mythical beast has a program, has a guide, and then so there's 9 or 10 guides. And when I teach, I use that system to train people. Now, most of my students are beginners, so I'm only on the third book right now, putting the book together. The first book is fitness. The second book is self-defense. The third book is combinations. So that's the book that I'm on right now. And I look at it long term. Instead of just one student that I'm training, I'm thinking, what can I do with this student that's going to be an investment in the brand. It's a bit selfish, but I know that what I'm doing is important. So I don't have any problem, using my students to develop my own brand. But as far as the kids, uh, I know that uh, they're not what I'm giving them is something that they're not getting from their own parents. They're not getting self-defense. That is important because something could happen, but I do teach them that the only time they should use their martial arts training is in the gym or in self-defense. So I don't teach them, to fight at home, blah blah blah, in school. That's part of the training. But something could happen, and it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
The other thing I try to teach them is the metaphor of martial arts training, which is a path of self-improvement. So I say, like, what did I say yesterday? I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, when you, geez, something about push-ups. Basically, yeah, basically it was a metaphor. Then I was like, and now we're gonna do push-ups. And they go, geez, push something about pushing yourself. I can't think of it right now, but basically, martial arts. To me, of course, I'm biased because I'm in the business, but to me, martial arts is a great way to learn how to improve yourself. If you could physically push yourself, then it's possible you can take that into other areas of your life. Like you don't feel like doing your homework, you got to dig deep. You're working with your family members, you fight for them. Uh, it's hard for me to put the nutrition in there because we only have an hour and it's basically martial arts training. But I tell them, at the end of class, make sure you get enough sleep. And what's the number one word for a healthy meal? Fresh.
Well put. Well, Luke, you've come a long way since the last time we've talked, I think. There's been no flute solos. There's been no random screaming, epic Beardsley. You've been a very,
Okay.
been a very calm and very centered man. And it looks like that, life's journey has finally brought you back in line. And it's just great to see, man. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here when I'm saying there was a lot of people worried about you for a very long time, and I think this shows that you're on the right path, and it seems to be working for you. So kudos to you, my friend.
Oh, thanks a lot, Colin. I appreciate it. Thanks for giving me your time. I changed from a flute to a bass guitar, so stay tuned for more screaming. I'm gonna sing though.
All right, well that works for me then.
I'm gonna sing like a metalcore singer. That's my new thing.
That's your new thing. You have a band going?
I have a song. It's called "Don't Finish the Fight." It's on YouTube. You could type in "Don't Finish the Fight," Master Lukey, and that's the first version of it. I want to make it a little more hardcore because the person who produced it for me, he's not into metal, so it's a bit more rock than metal than I would like. But that's on YouTube. Don't Finish the Fight. And my ultimate goal with these events is to combine genres. So not only to have the MMA fighting, but also to have Battle of the Bands, dance battle, and then the after party, a healthy chef battle.
I like it. Healthy chef battle. Have you ever thought of doing something like that, like a Master Lukey's cooking show or something like that?
Yes. I have 10 mythical beasts. I have 10 base recipes, which can then be varied to basically make anything that you love to eat. I can make it into a Life Food certified recipe. And once I get financial backing through Master Lukey's League of Champions, I'm going to spin off a line of commercial food products. So I just think that the MMA is going to be like the sword to drive into the heart of the beast. And then off of that, I can spin off these other plans, which I have for, equipment and apparel and food and just like a healthy lifestyle brand. But I'm working with people on a one-to-one basis. I make their food. I guide them. I recently connected with a girl. She's 3 weeks, 3 weeks healed right today from bulimia. She was throwing up every day. I said, listen, you're not eating right. The body's trying to heal itself. She was seeing all these people, all these doctors telling her it's all in her head. Maybe she needs medication, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, it's pretty plain for me to see. You're not eating right, and the body is just doing what it can to survive. So I changed the way she ate. She hasn't thrown up since. She lost weight and she's good looking, so I'm going to use her as a model.
There you go. That's what we call synergy, right, Luke?
Yes, it's the two DNA heal. I call it the double dragon. Two energies working together to make something. Like
Well,
you and me, bro.
exactly, and we're gonna have to have you back as this journey progresses. It's been such a treat to talk to you and to see your progress and just to touch base again. It's always a pleasure, my good friend. Let people know where they can find you on the social media. Plug the event again, November 30th, and anything
Yes.
else you want to say. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks again, Carlin. My website is masterlukey.com. The contact page has all my social media. But if you go by my old name, Luke Cummo, that's at Luke Cummo on Instagram. I have Facebook, but on the contact page, if anybody wants to connect with me 24/7, I do free consulting in health, in the areas that I'm good at. But like I said before, if there's anything anybody has a problem, I wish I had somebody to connect with when I was going through my problems. So anybody has a problem with anything, you connect with me on my website. Even my phone number is on there.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Luke. So keep in touch. We'll have to do this again soon. And you can find this show, all the social media bullshit is on bardscast.com. And until next time, things could be worse.